So yeah, these are no. Well, hello and welcome to an episode of Automotive Archives. Today we're going to talk about Transformers. Now, I'm a huge Transformers fan. Ever since I saw the original G1 show on Astroteria, I've become obsessed with all of the other series and lore of the Transformers world. And it's not hard to explain why I like them. They're robots that transform into cars. I mean, how much more of a boy's dream do you want? A robot and a car. But enough about that. We're not going to talk about the history of Transformers today. We're going to talk about the cars that they transform into. Now, the original G1 show had characters that transformed into real cars of the time. Optimus Prime was a Peterbilt truck. Bumblebee was a Volkswagen Beetle. Ironhide was a Toyota Hiace van. And a lot of these characters were all Japanese cars. Most of them were Japanese cars because Transformers was originally from Japan. But yes, these robots transform into some cool cars like Jazz and Wheeljack. And this one, Tiger Track, or as most of us would know as Sunstreaker, Transformers fan would know as Sunstreaker. So Sunstreaker was a Lamborghini Countach LP500S. So he was a Lamborghini in the G1 show, and he's a Lamborghini now in this remake of the toy. So this is the car itself. I'm going to show you the car. So this is what he looks like. And yes, he is a Lamborghini Countach. This is a real car. This is a licensed product. So I think it's pretty cool that Transformers actually did transform into real Earth car brands like this. But of course, there are some ones with no brands in the different series, depending on which one you watch. But I'd say a majority of them did actually transform into real Earth brand cars. And there was one series that really did focus on licensed car brands, which are these two. Right here. So these two right here. Now these two are from the Transformers Alternators and Alternity series. And yes, this is a Honda S2000 and this is a Nissan 370Z. So basically these series of Transformers heavily focused on the car portion. Again, with fully licensed cars. Now, unlike most Transformers where the car modes aren't usually very accurate or very good because they need to focus on the robot mode, these two Transformers in their car modes look almost like scale model cars, especially this Honda, which we will take a look first. Alright, now we're up close to the Honda S2000 and his name is Windcharger. So he's an Autobot and he transforms into a Honda S2000. You can see the badging there. And in front of here, it's kind of broken. I chipped it off, I think. But yes, this is a Honda S2000 from 2003, I think. And it really doesn't look like a transformable thing. From afar, I mean, from this angle here, you don't really notice that this thing can actually transform into a robot. Let me focus it. Yeah. You just might think that, these panel lines are just, a part of the car itself. And it's not. It transforms into a robot. I'll show you a robot mode later. And it comes with this soft top, which you can put it here, and it comes with a soft top full thing, which I lost. But let's just take a look around it. And this thing is plastic. Now the Japanese version, which is called Vinyl Tech, is made of painted stuff. I mean, the body panels are painted and some parts are die-cast construction. And those things are a bit more rarer than this American Hasbro version. I paid, I think, 80 ringgit for this one. It didn't come with instructions or anything. But this is as it is, and it's not as rare as the Japanese ones. And they are much cooler. They have even much cooler cars. But look at the detail here. It looks like a real car. Like you can see there's the aerial there. And there are some really cool details. Like, let me show you here if I can focus it. The wheels say Cybertronian radials. You can see that it says radials there. And just like real tires, I mean, the brakes don't spin. Look. Even some really cheap toys, the disc brake spins along with the wheel. This doesn't. Look, it's stationary. The calipers, yeah, that's what I meant to say. The calipers, they're stationary. You can see there's a turn signal here. There are lights here and everything. Let me put it here in front. This is what the grill looks like. And you can see where it's supposed to transform and everything. And yes, this thing does have steering. Now I'll show you how that works in a minute. But yeah. This is what it looks like. from the back. It's a bit dirty, you know, I've been keeping it for a long time. Here, the exhausts aren't that realistic, but you know, some cheap model cars are like that too. But yeah, they even got the lights right and everything. Look at that. Look at the lights. Look at the Honda logo there. Winchager. That's its license plate. Now let's go on to the inside. Here we're inside Windcharger, and this is a realistic interior. And I'm sorry to say, this is realistic even for its time. This thing came out in 2003. I mean, it was the early 2000s, and you know, Transformers toys weren't really that good. But this is insane. I mean, the Honda S2000 didn't really have like an insane detailed interior. I mean, it was a basic-ish interior, and they managed to make it, you know, as realistic as possible. I mean, of course they have, you know, these, you know, gaps and everything because it's a robot. Look, the steering moves, the gear lever is there, the handbrake is there, all the buttons and switches are supposedly there. They're not colored or anything. And look, the seats are here and everything. They can fold them down and everything, all that stuff. It is realistic, really realistic. It's quite big actually, this one. I think it's 130 something scale or something. I'll put it in the video later, the real number. And yes, the boot does open there. You can focus on the boot, and there's nothing inside. You can see his head is sticking under there, but the boot opens and everything. And yes, the front does open. And here we have the front, and there, the engine is modeled inside Windcharger. This is the engine. This is the Honda 2-liter engine. I think the S2000 came with a 2-liter engine. And yes, you can take it out because it's supposed to become his weapon. So if you take this out, that's there. This is the weapon. This is supposed to be some sort of radiator, I think. It's not a detailed engine. It's flat, and it does kind of look a bit weird, but you know, it's still good enough that it's actually included. Now inside the engine, it's nothing. It's just his legs folded up, and there, if you see those two things together, and it's all zoomed now, you can see that is how the steering works. Now it's actually two magnets that is connected to that thing, and that's how it works. See, I'm turning left and right, and that thing moves. So if I can pull it out a bit for you guys to see, there, okay, it's magnetized, so it's a bit hard, but you can see that that's the magnet over there. So that's how the steering works. And all of the alternator model lineups have this kind of steering, which is genius, because when you transform it into a robot, you can just fold that thing away so that it can become his legs fully. That is genius for something that was out, you know, more than 10 years ago. And here we have the second one, which is called the Alternity Timeline or series. Now this is fully Japanese. This is from Japan. I have the box, and the box is all in Japanese. Now this is supposed to be Galvatron, and he transforms into a Nissan 370Z. And this thing is made of metal. It's completely made of metal. And there's metal stuff inside. There's some metal bits here. And also the same thing, his hood, his doors open. His boot sort of opens, but that ruins the transformation process. But look at this. This is also just as real as Windcharger. I think Windcharger looks a bit more realistic compared to this one. You can obviously see that this is a transforming robot, and the body lines don't line up that well. In the inside, he's not as detailed as Windcharger, but it's still a pretty good robot mode. Let's see if, you know, here, right here, and you can see that it's not that great, but the robot mode is, the car mode is still something fantastic to look at. It is a Nissan 370Z, and it looks just as realistic. Here we have the Nissan badges and everything. These are all licensed cars, like I said before. These are all fully licensed vehicles. These are fantastic looking things. Now, yeah, these are all part of transformation. You can line it up properly, but yeah, it's not as realistic as Windcharger, and that was made many years ago. This was made quite recently, I think. But Windcharger looks a lot better, but this is also just as good. It's a bit smaller than Windcharger, but it's heavier and in some ways more sturdier, I guess. Alright, now they're now in their robot modes, and I'll put Windcharger away, and let's take a look at Galvatron first. So he's supposed to be some sort of samurai thing because, you know, Japan and all that stuff, and a robot mode is okay. You know, it doesn't really stand up properly because the legs are so thin, and you know, the legs are the rear part of the car, and they're so thin, and it's a bit hard to balance him, so we're just going to let him, you know, fall asleep like that. And this is also wind charger. He's actually so big, can't really fit in the frame. Yeah, so this is what he looks like. He looks a bit stupid, honestly, but you know, this was early 2000s Transformers. His legs don't move that much and everything. Basically, it's just, you know, the whole car just split apart and it became a robot. You can see most of the stuff at the back. It doesn't fold properly, you know, or as neatly as Galvatron. I mean, his stuff folds not that bad. I mean, it's a bit bad also, but yeah, these are the two robots in robot mode, sorry. So they're just not that great, and okay, they're both fallen down. So pricing and rarity, according to Wikipedia and some sources, the Alternators one, this one, the Japanese ones are a bit rarer to find because they have higher quality paint, and some of the robots are actually cool stuff. Now Windcharger is an S2000. He's an S2000. There are some that transformed into Honda Integra, Subaru Impreza, the WRX STI version, Dodge Viper, and other versions of this S2000. There's a white one, there's a yellow one, there's a Ford Mustang, there's a Mazda RX-8. That's Shockwave, I believe. There's a Dodge Ram. So the Japanese ones are a bit rarer than this one, this American one. Again, I bought this for like 80 something ringgit, and it didn't even come with a box. I bought it at a flea sale. I've never seen the Japanese one, which is called Vinyl Tech, yet. Now for this one, this Alternity one, it wasn't expensive when I bought it because I bought it a few years after its initial release. I bought it for 110 ringgit, so it's not super expensive. And these also aren't that common unless you find them in hobby shops and stuff like that. You can find them in Mid Valley, I think. If you go to Mid Valley, if you live here in Selangor, you can go to Mid Valley and see if they still have it at the XL shop, I believe. Now, there's another version. There are other characters too. There's Galvatron, there's Megatron, there's some other thing that transforms into a, interestingly, a Mitsuoka Orochi. I'll put the picture here. And that's just insane. It's super Japanese. And Optimus Prime transforms into a Nissan GTR, which is really cool. And that's that's the most expensive one, the Nissan GTR one. So in conclusion, if you really want Transformers that transforms into a real, you know, like a super realistic-ish model cars, these are basically the only two options you have, or the one that I have, the Masterpiece. But these two are the best ones that you can get if you can find them. And if you do, you really can fool people thinking that, oh, it's just a model car, but actually it transforms. Now, I don't suggest you transform it all the time because these things are pretty old, so they get a bit brittly and loose. But it's good to have in a collection among your normal model cars and stuff like that. So yeah, these are, oh no. Well, so these are the two. I'm just going to lay them down. These are the two robots here. So that's it for today's Automotive Archive. So it's a bit from the 2000s, early 2000s. So it's not that old, but it's still quite interesting. So again, like, comment, subscribe. We're on YouTube. We're on our blogspot. We're on our WordPress blog. Sorry, we're on our WordPress blog. We're on Instagram. So if you like stuff like this, you can follow those other social media platforms. Link in the description below, and thanks for watching.